All right, we got to let it breathe while we bring in the Facebook groups here. Making sure I'm clicking on the right ones. And now we got to wait for green check marks. There's one. There's two. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another Death Valley Deep Divers on this wonderful Friday night, or at least what I hope is a wonderful Friday night for you guys, or whatever time of day if you happen to be listening to this after the case. Joining me, as always, is the one and only Kenneth Booker. Kenneth, how you doing tonight? Did you watch any of the season opener last night?
I'm doing great today. Just have some family in town. My pops is downstairs, actually, so it was always good to see him. He's in from Georgia. I did watch the game last night. As we were talking earlier about the false starts that I think I started noticing since last year when Chiefs played the Patriots that right tackles for some reason are consistently doing false starts. I saw Lamar Jackson miss those two wide open passes to win the game. Oh, that was brutal. Zay Flowers was like, I think it was Zay Flowers. and then that one where he was out of bounds by like maybe an inch.
A big toe.
Wearing them Dion's. And then afterwards, did you hear what he said?
Mm-mm.
He's like, if that's the best they got, I can't wait to see him in the playoffs, pretty much.
But they beat you. Like,
yeah, I guess he's just like, man, we beat ourselves and we still almost won. That's what his like outlook is, I guess.
See, I didn't watch any of the game last night. One, just been super tired, and so I didn't get around to watching it. And also I partially forgot that it was on. Like I remember the game. I remember the game for tonight. I remember the Eagles and the Packers, and I completely forgot about the Chiefs and the Ravens game last night until my phone started blowing up because the group chat, Nick, Carl, Lance, all these guys were sitting there, started talking about the game. I was like, oh, okay, guess there was a game on. And then I've seen some of the discourse about the penalties as we were talking about earlier, and as you mentioned, I did see a couple plays. I saw the one Xavier Worthy touchdown that he had. I saw the almost touchdown by Isaiah Likely, the one where his big toe was basically out of bounds. But that's all I've seen tonight. And then I actually think it's kind of cool that there is a game on a Friday night because of the history behind it. So I don't know if you know this, but there is actually a congressional law in place to where the NFL cannot schedule games on Friday nights after 6 p.m. Eastern time because of high school football. But they're able to get away with it because it doesn't start until the second Friday of September. It's the first Friday of September. And so they're able to do it and have it scheduled and be a primetime game. And then with the games later in the season, the way that they're getting around this law is that they are scheduling it for 3 p.m. Eastern time, so earlier in the day. So I thought that was really cool. Andrew Brandt, the former general manager of the Green Bay Packers, he actually had a whole thing about it, and I just found that very interesting. But we're not.
Yeah, that's high school football.
Yeah,
I guess somebody from Texas or Pennsylvania or Florida.
It was made in like 1962 or 63, I think. So it's been around for a while, and the last opportunity, because of having to coincide with Labor Day and coinciding with the start of the NFL season, it happened in 2019, and I guess it's not supposed to happen again until like 2028 or something like that.
You think they make a bigger deal out of Sundays than high school football? You think like a church kind of thing? They would anyway. I don't know.
It's an interesting fact, but we're here to talk about the Broncos and, of course, their season opener coming up this Sunday against the Seattle Seahawks. It's been a long time since we've gone on the road and beat Seattle in their home. It is a very tough place to play. The second loudest stadium in football in the NFL, behind the Kansas City Chiefs. I am super excited for this game, but with how young this team is, I am a little bit worried about the crowd noise and how loud that stadium can be.
Yeah, good thing Bo Nix played in the SEC, and then he also played up there as well. So maybe some of those people are cheering for him. I don't know. But I don't know. I think I have utmost confidence in Bo Nix handling it and some of the veterans. But people like I don't know, people getting mad at me, like a Marvin Mims or for some reason Troy Franklin gets in. Just that big deep pass to see if they can control their nerves and reel it in for a catch. or if they drop it and it gets in their head and they just lose their confidence. So we'll see how they attack the game. I think they should come out aggressive and physical. Physicality could always trumps people's talent because they tend to get a little overwhelmed and frazzled, especially if they haven't been there before. So we'll see how they do, but I think Bo's going to be fine. He might not have no 300-yard game, but he's going to be effective. So I'm excited to see.
I chuckle that you mentioned a 300-yard game because I just wrote up my bold predictions for this game, and one of them was Bo Nix throws for 300 yards.
You never know.
But it's a bold prediction because I don't think it happens because the Seahawks secondary is pretty good. Mike McDonald is a pretty creative guy with his coverages and his pass rush fronts. So I think it's going to be very difficult, which, hey, it makes it a bold prediction when I don't think it very likely. But the crowd noise, the one that worries me the most, Mike McFlinchy. I mean, this guy has such an issue with it. And even in Denver, that I am really worried that we're going to see a couple of false start penalties thrown against them for jumping early. And part of this is that I think that they're going to start trying to crack down on this, the early jumping, as you mentioned, because of the outcry that's happening after last night's game. We tend to see that once they have an issue in one game that's not getting called over the remainder of the season or the remainder of the week, we tend to see it, or the next week, depending on when the game is, we tend to see it be called a little bit more often.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Mike McGlinchey, he's one of those guys that he likes to get that, like, tries to time it perfectly, that almost makes it look like that he's coming out early. He's probably not going to get the benefit of a doubt, which is going to lead to these penalties. I just hope that Sean Payton has it to where they're not going to be called for the illegal formation stuff and at least have them lined up correctly. But
yeah, definitely. It's almost like he needs like a little what are those, the card cheaters, whatever, when they have the little thing on their leg.
Yeah,
hey, when you feel that, go. Until then, don't move at all. But
yeah, it's rough with Mike McGlinchey. But as you said, Marvin Mims, a couple of the other young guys, I am more concerned with Bo Nix handling the different looks that it's going to be thrown his way by the defense under McDonald from their new coach than I am the crowd noise. Because as you said, he's played in the SEC. He's used to loud stadiums. Playing at Oregon, it gets loud there. Some of the opponents he's played, it's been loud. He should be used to this, being loud noise. But again, Mike McDonald, so creative with his looks. He's absolutely praised for being a creative genius with the different coverages. He got so much out of the Seahawks last year. He's over, and the year before, he is well renowned despite 2 years as a defensive coordinator in the NFL as putting his guys in the best position to succeed. And it's not like the Seahawks don't have a good amount of talent on the defense. So I am more worried about Bo Nix facing that kind of challenge than of this creative defenses that he didn't get to see in college. Hardly at all. I mean, he saw some, but not quite like this, and how he responds to that.
Yeah, I think that the way they can help neutralize their defense is Bo using his legs. Just another person to worry about taking off. We'll see how they're going to run up the middle with the running game too as well, because my first round pick that I wanted, Byron Murphy, is going to be up there, and I heard he's been playing amazing. So we'll see how Wattenberg and Quinn Miners and all those guys hold up against him. But yeah, Bo Nix using his legs, short passes just to get a completion. I'm not really a fan of the short passes where they stop, catch, and then turn around and turn up the field. I'm more of a shallow cross kind of guy or something out in the flat. But yeah, he's just got to get a couple completions under his belt, get him in that rhythm, and hopefully give some looks or some different plays that McDonald hasn't seen yet or didn't expect him to be able to pull that off in that situation.
Yeah. Now, one thing worth noting is Sean Payton is, I believe, 12-3 or 13-3 against rookie head coaches in his career. So that's a good sign. He knows how to do it. And a lot of times experience can win out. They're going to be doing, and they talked about this during this week after in press conferences about the challenges of doing this is because they're having to watch the Ravens tape from last year to kind of get an idea of what they might do, and then kind of pin in what role these different Seahawks players are going to be. And there's two things that you mentioned that I really liked hearing was running the ball. I then mentioning Byron Murphy. Now, running the ball, they have to do it. I mean, keeping control of the ball, not giving them, easy. That's right. I don't want to say easy, but not giving the opportunities for, sacks that make the crowd go wild or interceptions, but running the ball, being secure with the ball. Obviously, fumbles can happen, and using that to try to combat the loudness is something that they need to do, especially with guys like Byron Murphy, Draymond Jones, Jerron Reed, who are all questionable against the run at best. I mean, last year, the Seattle Seahawks, they had 3 players play 300 or more snaps against the run on the defensive line. All 3 of them are back this year. The best one was Leonard Williams, who was decent at best. And then Draymond Jones and Jerron Reed were 2 of the worst run defending defensive linemen last year in the NFL. They did bring in Jonathan Hankins, who is a really good run defender, so you kind of want to avoid him. But then you add in Uchenna Nwosu is going to most likely be out for this game. I mean, he's listed on the injury report. He was do not practice, or he's listed out. Sorry, I didn't see that the status for it. He's listed as out for the game, and he's a pretty quality run defender. But Boye Mafe and Derek Hall are hit or miss against the run. So they have these advantages. And then for all the issues that Ben Powers had last year in pass protection, he was really good as a run blocker. I think he and Quinn Miners, who is one of the best run blockers in the NFL at guard, they should be able to get running lanes open in the middle. If Draymond Jones is out there on the field, target him. If Jerron Reed is out there on the field, target him. Go and trust those guys to make a lane. Rely on Javonte Williams, Jaleel McLaughlin to go pick up yards on the ground and to help take a lot of this pressure on Bo Nix off, as well as combating the loudness that you get in being in Seattle.
Sorry, got this random person in the chat over here, but I'm sorry, I kind of lost train of thought there.
It's all good. It happens. Talking about getting the running game going to combat,
Oh yeah,
Seahawks loudness.
Yeah, I was gonna say that I liked your motto. It's almost like the Peyton Manning motto. It's like when you see that weak link, attack them every single time, and if they continue to put them out there, continue to attack them. Yeah, it's I'm having a really high hopes for Javonte. I think he's going to come out angry this year. Well, I hope so. I think he will. We'll see if it produces yards and touchdowns on the field. But I'm hoping for him to have a breakout game of like not even 100 yards, like 70 yards, but like 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
If you can get some running game like that, it's a whole new season when it comes to Bo Nix.
Yeah, and one thing with Peyton Manning attacking the weakness and keep attacking it, it's easy to spot it. When you're watching tape, it's easy to spot these weaknesses. Even when you look at some statistics, it's easy to find where this weakness is. But it all comes down to, can you go out there and execute? Can Ben Powers, can Quinn Miners, can they go out there and execute? Or will the Seahawks throw something at them to help cover it? And as for Javonte Williams, one of my bold predictions dealt with him and setting a career high in rushing yards in this game as they rely on him. But do you know how many 100-yard games we've had out of Javonte Williams?
It's like 3 or something, isn't it? Or maybe
2. We've had 2.
Yeah, he's always a 70-yard touchdown guy, or like a not 70-yard touchdown, but like 70 yards and like a touchdown or 2, whatever.
Yeah.
He's not he gets you 10, 12-yard runs, but he's not going to get you a 70-yard run.
Yeah, and so I think they need to rely on him and really let him, help wear down this defense, because there is a lot of speed on this offense, and the best way to use that speed is to wear down defenses, tire them out. Best way of doing that is pounding the rock with a bell cow type running back who's got that bigger size, that more powerful style, and that's Javonte Williams. And you could even throw Audric Estime in there. So that's something that they need to do. I'm hoping that we get to see a lot of Javonte Williams, even though I have questioned his ability, and I do think that this will probably be his last year in Denver unless he signs back cheap. But he's had a lot of issues with it. But despite that, I hope that we see better from him. I hope that his lighter weight, we see better out of him. and we see improved vision. And again, they just trust him and rely on him to run the ball.
I remember former offensive lineman and shall remain nameless. He was on another podcast, Denver podcast, and he talked about Javonte Williams. And he started saying something, and then he like caught himself, and then he was like, "I don't want this to go public," essentially. But he was like, he pretty much said, if he could hit the holes the way he's supposed to, he'd be the best running back in the league. And I was like, that's insane for him to get, I don't know, like 700 or 800 yards and consistently hitting the wrong hole and just figuring something out and breaking a couple tackles for some yards here and there. But if he could hit the proper hole, then he's breaking arm tackles, not actual running people over.
And that's one of the things that's most frustrating to me when watching him is you can see the hole wide open. Maybe one guy he'd have to break through, and instead he runs into a defender or the back of a lineman or where the hole is clogged, and it just, you're leaving yards on the field. And I talk about this a lot. I've talked about it a lot over the years. Nothing is more infuriating to me than leaving yards on the field, especially in the running game. And, Vic Fangio, he had the whole, death by inches. Well, leaving yards on the field in the running game is part of that death by inches, because every yard matters. You need every single yard you can get. You can't take them for granted.
We used to get a similar lesson in baseball. It's like, don't strike out looking. I don't care if you swing and miss. Do not strike out looking. And that was like one of the biggest things that infuriated them. It's like, you can't win unless you play, essentially.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. And it's with a lot of, Royce Freeman was another one who was like that. But Royce Freeman was a whole different level of frustrating because he was one of these bigger backs that didn't want to play like it. And that just adds
He's
much.
Still in the league, isn't he?
Last
he was like on a preseason
with the Cowboys, I think.
And then he got cut, and then I don't know what happened after that.
But yeah, maybe. And we do need to say hello to the chat. David Yunkin saying, "Evening Broncos country. I want to see how well the offensive line protects Bo and how many false starts and penalties this whole team gets." We kind of touched on, the false starts and penalties with the loudness, but what about protecting Bo next? How do you think this offensive line is going to do?
But protecting Bo Nix would be the running game.
Yeah.
You can't have them knowing you're going to throw the ball. You have to, even if you're not really performing as much, you have to introduce the running game. Gives them keeps them from pinning their ears back, and multiple things to think about as the play is developing. So the other thing is to see, with the year under their belt, to see how this line actually performs. They're a little more cohesive with each other. They know a little bit what the other person's going to do, when they're going to do it. So let's see if it translates to the field. Hopefully it's like that first preseason game where there was 0 sacks. But I'm excited to see if McGlinchey and Powers can turn it around and turn into players they thought they were going to be, as the Pro Bowlers or borderline Pro Bowlers.
Yeah, my biggest question is Luke Wattenberg. Like, how are this? If I'm Seattle, I am targeting him in both run defense and pass protection, or run blocking and pass protection, to try and figure out where his weakness is, because we don't have much tape on him. And what tape we do have is that he does struggle with some power and struggles maintaining or handling leverage. That is where I would be lining up Leonard Williams, or even Jonathan Hankins when against the run, Leonard Williams against the pass, and trying to get that pressure, win that way. Luke Wattenberg is a huge question mark with this offensive line.
Is Hankins, is that Snacks? The old defensive Lions nose tackle?
I thought that was Damon Harrison.
Yeah, I'm thinking of the wrong one. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, Hankins he's been around for the league for a while. He's with the Raiders there for a while. And man, he did well against the Broncos every single time they played the Raiders when it came to defending the run. But we have Michael Ronquillo coming in saying, "Good evening, Eric and Kenneth on the Dove Valley Deep Divers. Bo time, Bo leave. God bless Bo Nix and go Bo Broncos." We didn't get Papa Bear in here for yet another new hashtag involving Bo. I've been grown to looking forward to those. It's always been like a new one every single week. But yes, definitely time to believe in Bo Nix and the Broncos and see what they can do.
I tried to make one out of biosphere. It was like Boasphere. It's like, I don't know if that works.
We don't have Scott with us tonight. With he's had stuff going on. He's probably not going to be on Friday nights for a little while longer. But Phil McLaughlin coming in also saying, "Good evening, Eric and Ken. Do you really think Nix will be bothered with the noise? He did play in front of 90,000 drunken college kids." It's tough, and as I said earlier, and I know we are late getting to these, and I apologize for that. I am more concerned about how he specifically handles the defensive coverages more so than the noise. I think I am more concerned with other players against the noise. Some of these guys have been in the NFL, but sometimes when I can't remember who it was, there was a Rodney Harrison, I think it might have been, and he talked about the difference of noise between college and the NFL, and that the vibe in college is like a fun atmosphere. There's seriousness to it, but it's more fun, jovial, kind of like that. And then when you get to the NFL, it's a lot more serious. Like it is, if you mess up, these fans are, and if you're in front of the home crowd, these fans are going to hate you for the next week until you do something to make up for it. Or if you're in front of the away crowd, they are going to celebrate every mistake that you make. And it's just a little bit harder to ignore.
Where did he play college at, though?
Rodney Harrison? I don't know off
Western Illinois University. So I don't really know if his. I mean, I guess
it might not have been him. It might not have been him. I think it is. Yeah. But if it was him, you do have a point that Western Illinois to the NFL is definitely a huge jump.
I mean, they might have played in Alabama because that's who those teams play.
Yeah.
It's so funny how they give CU such a hard time for playing North Dakota State, and then they're playing in like North Carolina, Central Tech, A&T. I don't know. Yeah. They play 3 or 4 good teams a year, like really good teams, and then the rest are just. That's how I don't know. They're great teams. They end up in the championship because they should be there, but the road should be a little harder than it is.
For as long as I can remember, the great teams have always scheduled that 1 or 2 gimme games.
Nobody would remember the Boise State years. Nobody would schedule against them. They tried to get against Alabama. They didn't do it.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted to do North Dakota State either.
Yeah. And then going back to this game, I mean, we have our predictions up. If you guys want to go check them out, they're on milehighhuddle.com. I can't remember the score off the top of my head, but I do have the Broncos winning. Do you remember your prediction and how you had the game turning out?
Yeah. So I have it as, just a slow-moving game, essentially. A lot of running, a lot of defense. And then Bo Nix, the defense getting off the field. That's not really what they're known for. Late in the game, whenever we need that final stop, whatever, the Broncos, for some reason, can't get that final stop, but I'm thinking it's a different era. They're going to get that final stop. Bo Nix is going to drive down the field, game-winning field goal, 24-23.
I think I have mine 31-20 or 31-23 or 31-24. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head. Or
24-23, that's what I said. Did I say 21?
Yeah, you said 24-23. So I have Denver scoring a little bit more, and then the Seahawks right around the same range as you. I think that also with this game, I think there's going to be a lot of excitement with this defense because of the Patrick Surtain extension that we got, which I was wrong. I thought they would wait until, next year before the 5th-year option, as we see most of the time with rookie contracts outside of quarterbacks. But I am glad that they didn't, because 2 days was all he was the highest paid cornerback for, as Jalen Ramsey got his extension that beats him by $100,000 on an average per year basis.
Jalen Ramsey, really?
Yeah. But getting that extension done, that can be such a shot in the arm for everybody else on defense, because it's good for morale. I mean, you're rewarding one of your star players, and you're doing it right before the season starts. It shows that you're putting a lot of trust in them. So I think that this defense is going to come out and surprise a lot of people. And I felt that anyway, even before the extension, because there are so many people that have this defense as being bottom five in the NFL. I don't think they're going to be top 10. I think they're going to be top 16, though. I think they're going to be in the top half of the NFL when it's all said and done, and definitely not top 5.
Yeah, it's like they look at our pass rushers and they don't see a superstar, but I see 4 guys that are capable of getting 8 sacks. So it's like a spread it around kind of situation. Like Mark Slayer said, we don't have, was it star power or star names, whatever, but we have talented players. But we just need them to believe in themselves, get momentum going, ride that momentum wave, continue to, as they go on, thinking they're more invincible as they go, and then it doesn't matter who you play. So, but I don't think he'll, on this question earlier, I don't think he'll have issues with the noise. I mean, those SEC schools are like 100,000 seats, whatever.
Yeah.
And some schools don't take it as serious, but the SEC schools definitely take it serious. Okay. If you played for Alabama and you have no jobs, like no hope of getting a job, just go anywhere in Alabama and they'll hire you as their district manager just because you played Alabama football. That's how much they love those people. I
mean, you don't mess with football down in the South and Texas.
Over here, they just give you a job at a T-Mobile kiosk. But
no, we're gonna have to wrap it up here shortly. I know there's a lot of excitement on, and there's a game going on too. We don't want to keep you guys from the game. Football, Packers and the Eagles, which, not to get into political side of things, but did you know that Twitter is banned in Brazil?
Yeah.
So what, I don't know, I can't remember if it's the Eagles or the Packers or both, but what they're doing is the beat reporters are texting their wives who are still here in the States that are on their Twitter accounts and tweeting out what they text them so they can still put out tweets and everything. Which is, I thought was a cool way to get around it. But I kind of feel bad for the wives a little bit because we've seen how some of the beat reporters tweet during games. They're going to be going back and forth between text messages and Twitter all night long. So kind of feel bad for them a little bit.
At least it's another set of eyes to edit to make sure nothing crazy is being said. Especially then through a woman's eyes, whatever. So if they find it's offensive or whatever, it could be something completely different. But I don't know. Us guys don't really realize how our words affect people sometimes. So.
And then Michael Ronquillo coming in saying cornerback Riley Moss will get the most targets thrown against him against the Seahawks. I definitely agree. And this actually, again, I'm spoiling all my bold predictions here, but make sure you guys go read them out for the few that haven't been. But I have Riley Moss getting an interception and Patrick Surtain still getting targeted at least 5 times, but not allowing a single completion. So actually, both of those play into each other.
I actually just saw something on Riley Moss saying about the first time he started in Iowa, immediately got 3 50-yard passes thrown on him, thrown in his direction. He said, well, it worked out fine for me because I ended the game with 2 interceptions. So we'll see. That'll be nice to see them try to test him deep in him. Like, you sure about that? What's that meme? Like, sure about that? I forgot how it goes. It's so funny, though.
Sure about that? Sure about that?
Sure about that?
I can't remember the name of the show that it's from. But that show is one of the funniest shows I've ever seen.
You ever seen the 55 burgers, the drive-through one?
55 burgers, 55 fries, 55 shakes, 55. Yeah.
He's trying to do the pay it forward, and the lady reverses and starts ordering it too.
Hold on. I'm doing something here. But anyways, last thing.
Sorry. No, go ahead. This is a totally different subject.
I was going to say, last thing before we get out of here with this game, who is, besides Bo Nix, who is that one guy on offense that you're looking towards to have that game that is needed?
Javonte.
Yeah.
I really want him to get hit after 3 yards and end up with a 7-yard run. I wanted to see defensive backs that's in disbelief. Like, why can't we pull this guy down? Pulling a Marlon Humphrey. I want to see him smile on the sideline, and I want to see him in the end zone.
I think for me, it's either Greg Dulcich, because the linebackers that they have and safeties can be exploited in coverage by somebody like Greg Dulcich, or Cortland Sutton, who could really do with stepping up against Tariq Woolen, who is one of the better young corners in the NFL, and either one of them helping be that safety blanket for Bo Nix to keep a decent passing game going, even as they rely on the run. And then same question, but on the defensive side of the ball.
I mean, Riley Moss would be an easy one, but was it Brandon Jones? Safety, is he playing in this game? I know he was dealing with it with a hamstring or something.
He's expected to play in this one.
So I'd like to see him, see how he plays, see if these guys have a little ball hawk in him. So we'll always have a ball hawk safety, and it'll be pretty sad if we don't have a guy that's out there just causing terror and stuff like that, because Justin Simmons did it for so long, and Caden Stern had a couple of little weeks where he was doing it too. But besides that, we haven't had anybody do that. We've only had a big hit safety and that was Kareem Jackson.
Yeah,
but I don't know.
For me, it's probably. I mean, as you said, Riley Moss would be easy. Brandon Jones is a really good one, and totally didn't cross my mind after not playing in the preseason at all. And he's one of the starters. Definitely need him to step up. But for me, Cody Barton, because he's not the best in coverage, and his run defense is all right. The Seahawks know him quite well, having spent the first 3 or 4 years of his career there in Seattle, then went to Washington and now Denver. And he got dubbed backside Barton by people in Seattle because his back was always to the quarterback in coverage, leading to multiple mistakes. How is he going to do when we are handling somebody that Bronco fans are very familiar with in Noah Fant, tight end who is a good, capable receiving tight end? I mean, even since going to Seattle, he's still been quite capable for them. So how we handle that, because the Broncos were the second worst team covering tight ends last year, and it's been a fan perception that they've been bad at covering tight ends for years. It'd be nice to have somebody to step up and do that, and a lot of that's going to fall on Cody Barton.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I hit my mic over here. I don't know. Maybe we'll see Justin Strnad get introduced in there to replace Cody Barton if he starts to get roasted. I know Strnad's up and down, never really lived up to his potential the entire time he's been here, but he played pretty well in preseason. I was really impressed with him, and I was excited that he's still grinding, trying to make an impact on this team, and he definitely has the tools.
Yeah,
he's a really athletic dude. I remember doing a article on him not too long ago, and I even saw some film work of him chasing down Lamar Jackson and taking him down, and I was like, wow, I didn't realize how fast he was. But
yeah, he's definitely has all the tools. One of the biggest issues for him the longest time was that he was so not the best term to use, but so weak against the run, as in he would get bullied by blockers, would struggle to get off, and just not necessarily avoid contact, but not be the toughest. That was a complete opposite of what we've seen or what we saw in this preseason. He was so physical coming downhill, made multiple plays against the run, shedding blocks, shooting gaps to make a play, cause disruption behind the line. And then he does well in coverage. That's one thing that he has done well throughout his career. It's just the issues against the run have been hard to trust him on defense, because then you just run right at him, especially when you had issues on the defensive line that the Broncos have had for the last few years in stopping the run. So Justin Strnad is one that maybe they have something in store for him to help ease up Cody Barton, some of the pressure, not necessarily pressure, but some of the concerns on them, help cover some of those concerns a little bit, because Alex Singleton's not very good in coverage either. So this has a making of being a very bad group in coverage, a linebacker group in coverage, unless they do use Justin Strnad that way. But that's going to do it for us tonight. Actually, real quick, Roy Osborne comes here. If we railroad the Seahawks, no sleeping on the Broncos. I actually think that this is a really good comment, because so many people are underestimating the Broncos. And at the same time, there are a lot of analysts out there that are super high on the Seahawks, as in they're going to be one of the teams competing, not necessarily with the Packers and the Eagles, but for that third team in the NFC. If they can go into Seattle with the rookie quarterback, and such one of the youngest teams in the NFL, I think they're the 9th youngest team, and beat them on the road, it's going to send a loud message to the rest of the NFL and to all these analysts And I think on top of that, if they can go out there and beat them easily, for lack of a better way to put it, then that message is just so much louder.
Sorry. My bad. I got a phone call from my daughter's mom at the and I was like, oh man. Anyway, sorry, can you go back to that? What we were saying again about
basically that Denver beating Seattle in Seattle in Seattle would be such a good message to send.
We always get the curse of Colin Cowherd. He's always so high in the Broncos, and they're always terrible after that. So we gotta start talking to Colin Cowherd, tell him to leave my name out his mouth, get all Will Smith with it. But yeah, I don't know. Did you so you'll be down here next weekend, you said?
Yes. I may or may not be here for the show next week. Lance may be filling in. I got to talk to him.
Okay.
I got to figure out something with my flight because I got an email notification that they booked up my flight 4 hours here out of where I live. So I'm going to see if they can't push it back because I don't want to sit here, sit at the big airport for so long before I fly down to Denver. So I may or may not be here next week, but next week will be next Friday night. I'll be heading down for the meet and greet, which is in week 2 against Pittsburgh Steelers. Super excited for that. Super excited to see a lot of you guys there. Hopefully a lot of new faces show up. There's a lot of you out there listening, watching to this. And as a reminder, and if I'm here next week, I'll give the reminder too. If you come up and introduce yourself, please also give your either Twitter handle or whatever name that we know you by, just so we can better recognize who you are, because there are a lot of people that don't use their real names, especially on YouTube.
Don't do that. Just mess with Eric. see how comfortable he can get before he asks.
It is already tough because I have severe social anxiety. So being down there in that setting, like people coming up, it can be rough for me. But just hope we see a lot of you guys there. Pro 16K, we both picked Denver to win. I think my score, you said 31-21. I think my score was 31-21 or 31-24, one of the two. And then Kenneth said that his was 24-23 Broncos over Seattle. Mm-hmm. So we both have Denver winning this one, starting off the season, starting off the Bo Nix era with a win. Well, that's going to do it for us tonight. We hope you guys enjoyed the show. We hope you guys have a wonderful weekend.
I'd say one thing, sorry. Oh, yeah, you always say it afterwards.
Yeah.
Well, what do I have?
We thank you guys for tuning in. As always, you guys can make sure you are following the MHH pod as well as the Dove Valley Deep Divers pod, our Twitter account at DVDD_pod. Make sure, and then Mile High Huddle at Mile High Huddle is the mother account. It's where you get access to all of our written content as well as all of our shows. You can follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/Mile High Huddle pod, as well as /Mile High Huddle. Again, for all the access to the written content. MHHmerch.com. That's where you can go get your different kinds of gear for the different shows, including the Dove Valley Deep Divers hat. There's Broncos for Breakfast mugs. There are all sorts of things on there, shirts, sweatshirts. So you guys can go check that out. You can follow us on Instagram at Mile High Huddle with an underscore between Mile and Hyatt and an underscore between Hyatt and the Huddle. Make sure you go to Spotify or Apple Podcasts and leave your 5-star review for a chance to win some gear, some merch each month. And as always, the one thing you can do that only costs a matter of seconds that you can do every single week, doesn't cost any money because, times are tough and can't always, do financial aspects of it to help support the show. But subscribing, liking, and sharing just takes a matter of seconds, and it does wonders to boost up the show, both on all the different things that we stream on, but especially YouTube, and helps us with the algorithm for that. So thank you guys for tuning in. We hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. But before we get out of here, any last words?
So this weekend we got a couple things going on. We got the Denver Food and Wine Festival. That's going to be downtown or our Tivoli area campus, but you kind of got to be a little bit of a baller. I think it's like $70 or something like that. I think it goes higher depending on what package you get. And then tomorrow, Chili Fest in Superior, Chili and Beer Festival. It's right down the street from my house, so I don't know. Maybe I'll see you there. And if you do want to mess with somebody at the meet and greet, yeah, you could mess with me. I would probably immediately regret this decision, but Yeah, I always love to meet you guys and other Bronco fans. It's going to be awesome. But yeah, have a fun, safe weekend. Don't drink and drive. Use an Uber if you have to.
Yes.
And yeah, just have a good time and enjoy that weather.
Yeah, and the meet and greet is always a blast. It's always a fun time. Always a chance to get some gear as well. And yeah, it's just always a great time to sit, chat, talk Broncos football, get to know a lot of us outside of the podcasts and everything. It's always a good time, always a blast. Super glad to have been able to partake in each year so far that we've done it, and each year we've done it, the Broncos have won. So gonna keep that streak up this year. I don't want to go to a Broncos game and lose. It hasn't happened yet. Still not ready for it to happen. But
it's not gonna happen. Yeah.
Thank you guys for watching. Have a wonderful weekend. Stay safe. And as always, go Broncos.